Welcome back, everyone. If you are new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. So, let me remind you about today's video. In past couple of videos, I've been talking about the manga process step by step, and today I'm going to continue, and it is part 3 of my video of explaining the manga process. If you have missed out on the previous video, go check it out. And thank you so much for tuning in again. If you like this kind of content, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. So let's get started. We stopped in step 12. Today it is step 13. I'll be explaining a few more details about manga process. So let's get started. Step 13. Developing an authentic black and white manga mentality. Many artists transition into manga from a background in color illustration. This transition requires a profound structural shift in how your brain processes visual information. When you color an illustration, you rely on hue saturation and temperature to separate elements. In black and white manga, you lose all of those tools. You must learn to see the world entirely through the lens of value contrast. So, the thumbnail value check. A brilliant trick used by professional mangakas to ensure the pages are readable is a squint test. Zoom out from your digital canvas until the page is the size of a postage stamp on your screen, and squint your eyes until the details blur together. Point 1. Can you still clearly see where the main character is standing? Point 2. Does the black and white distribution guide your eye smoothly down the page? Point 3. Or does the entire layout blend into a chaotic, uniform gray blob? If your character has dark hair, don't place them directly in front of a dark, shadow-filled wall without a clean white rim light or a light gray screen tone separating them. If their outfit is completely white, avoid placing them against a bright, empty white sky. You must constantly alternate values, placing light elements against dark backgrounds and dark elements against light backgrounds to maintain perfect clarity. Now let's get to step 14, the final polish, quality control and export checklist. You'll spend days plotting, sketching, inking, and toning your page. It's incredibly tempting to instantly export the file and post it online or send it to the printer. Often leads to embarrassing mistakes like misspelled words, missing layers, or formatting errors that ruin the reader's experience. Always subject your completed pages to a strict quality control checklist. That is the mirror flip check. When you spend hours staring at the same illustration, your brain becomes blind to anatomical flaws and perspective errors. It compensates for your mistakes automatically. To break this mental habit, use the horizontal flip tool to mirror your entire page. Viewing your page in reverse completely refreshes your brain's perspective. Suddenly, hidden structural errors will jump out at you instantly. First, is the character's left eye accidentally drifting too far from their face? 2. Are those perspective lines on the desk skewed? 3. Is the posture leaning awkwardly to one side? Fix these errors in the mirrored view. Flip the canvas back to normal, and your overall line work quality will improve dramatically. Now let's get into the text and lettering review. Turn off all your artwork layers for a moment, leaving only the text and speech bubble layers visible on a blank white canvas. Read through your dialogue out loud, word for word. That is point one. Are there any typos, grammar mistakes, or missing punctuation marks? 2. Does the dialogue flow naturally when spoken aloud, or does it sound stiff? 3. Is the font size perfectly uniform across standard speech panels, or does it fluctuate awkwardly? And 4. Is there a comfortable, clean boundary of white space between the letters and the edge of the speech bubbles? Let's get into step 15, honoring your unique creative voice. As we come to the close of this comprehensive exploration of manga creation, let's step away from the technical settings, the grid, and the digital tools and look at the big picture. The process of creating a manga page is demanding. It requires discipline, continuous study, and a willingness to embrace mistakes as you process page by page. But there is an unparalleled magic hidden within this medium. You are creating a living, breathing universe out of absolute nothingness. Every character design choice you make, every character design choice you make, every line weight variation you apply, and every quiet story beat you execute is a direct reflection of your personal voice, your unique worldwide worldview, and your passion for creation. Let's get to step 16, advanced page layout and breaking the panel grid. As you grow more comfortable with the standard comic grid, you can begin exploring advanced panel and arrangements that challenge the reader's perception of space, time, and emotional intensity. Traditional comic manga grids provide a stable container for a narrative, but manga often breaks that container entirely to convey a heightened psychological state or an overwhelming physical force. One of the most powerful tools in a mangaka's layout Arsenal is the borderless character breakout. This occurs when a character's figure or an object physically overflows its assigned box, slicing across the white gutters or overlapping neighboring panels. This visual device instantly creates a profound sense of scale and priority. When a character's silhouette cuts through a panel border, it signals to the reader's brain that the specific character's presence or emotional reaction is too large to be contained by the narrative's regular flow of time. It forces the character into the immediate foreground, making the surrounding panels feel like background memories or secondary events happening around them. To use this layout technique successfully without creating a confusing layout, let's get to the point to make it clear. First, keep the background artwork inside the panels clean and simplified. 2. Ensure the overlapping character figure has a strong, distinct silhouette with a crisp line weight so it clearly detaches from the panel work underneath. 3. Avoid placing crucial text bubbles directly under the overlapping limbs or hair stands, which breaks readability. Let's get into inverted and negative borders. If a scene calls for an eerie, quiet, or highly psychological atmosphere, such as a character experiencing a deep panic attack, moving through a surreal dream space, or entering a state of complete shock, you can invert your entire page design. Instead of utilizing white gutters on a white page, fill the canvas background with a rich, solid black or a dark, textured tone and let your panels sit as bright, glowing windows within that darkness. This inversion immediately triggers a claustrophobic, heavy sensation in the reader. The black gutters act like a defense, a dense, creeping fog that swallows up the characters' environments. Heavily reduces visual noise and forces the eye to focus strictly on tight, intimate close ups of eyes, lips, or micro expressions, intensifying the quiet drama of a dark scene. Next, let's get into step 17, mastering environmental storytelling and object detail. While character acting drives the emotional narrative of your comic, the world they inhabit tells a silent story of its own. Environmental storytelling is the art of designing spaces, rooms, and backgrounds so that they actively communicate a character's personality, history, and internal state without a single line of descriptive dialogue. The cluttered versus minimalistic space. Consider two different protagonists. The first is a neat, hyper organized college student who thrives on routine. The bedroom panel should reflect this with absolute geometric precision. Books stocked perfectly by size, a pristine desk setup with a single open laptop, a meticulously made bed, and plenty of open, clean, white space. The second protagonist is an erratic, brilliant, yet completely disorganized artist or researcher. Their room should be a chaotic landscape of visual storytelling. Loose sketch papers littering the floor, half empty coffee mugs staining the desk surface, unorganized clothing spilling out of open drawers, and walls covered in taped up references, images, or handwritten sticky notes. By investing time into drawing these specific, messy environmental details in your large, establishing shots, you build an immense amount of character depth. The audience learns about the character's daily habits, stresses, and passions simply by observing the items scattered across their living space. Let's get into next one, the texture of everyday objects. To make your background look authentic rather than like cold computerized architectural models, you must inject organic life into everyday objects. This is achieved by focusing on wear and tear, what artists call dirt and damage. Point 1. Slight imperfections. Do not draw a perfectly straight, razor sharp line for the edge of an old wooden table. Add tiny chips, wood grain textures, or a slight organic wobble to your hand drawn lines to show that the table is old and well used. 2. The living environment. When drawing an outdoor street scene, add small details like a tuft of grass breaking through a crack in the concrete, a dent in a metal trash can, or electrical wires looping across the sky between telephone poles. These tiny, seemingly insignificant background details ground your stylized manga characters in a world that feels completely real, tangible, and alive. Let's get into step 18: lighting design, shadow mechanics, and dramatic chiaroscuro. Every panel you draw has an implicit light source, whether it is the bright, uniform glow of an office fluorescent bulb, the harsh, direct rays of a midday sun, or the soft, flickering light of a single candle. Understanding how to sculpt your characters using high contrast shadows, a technique known classically as chiaroscuro, allows you to instantly dictate the dramatic ways of a scene. That is, mapping the light source. Before you apply a single shadow block or screen tone layers to your line art, physically place a tiny arrow on a separate draft layer to indicate whether the main light source is located in 3D space. 1. Top down lighting, that is, the sun or the ceiling lights. This is the most common natural looking setup. Shadows fall naturally beneath the eyebrows, under the nose, under the bottom lip, and casting downward from the chin into the neck. 2. Button up lighting, the monster glow or flashlight, or the screen. This setup reverses all natural shadow rules. Light hits the underside of the jaw, the chin, and the nostrils, while shadows are cast upward over the forehead and cheekbones. This creates an eerie, unsettling, or sinister look, perfect for a character telling a horror story or experiencing an intensely dark realization. 3. Side lighting or split light. Flooding one half of the character's face is pure white light, while burying the other half in solid black ink. This high contrast split symbolizes internal conflict, secrets, moral ambiguity, or a split personality. Let's talk about ambient occlusion and drop shadows. To give your character cells a rich three-dimensional pop on a two-dimensional page, differentiate between two types of shadows. 1. Form shadows. Soft, gradual shadows that appears as an object naturally curves away from a light source. In manga, these are typically represented using smooth dot screen tone gradients. 2. Cast shadows and ambient occlusion. Sharp, hard-edged shadows that occurs when one object physically blocks light from hitting another object. For example, a lock of air casting a sharp, dark shadow across a character's forehead. Ambient occlusion refers to the absolute dark points on your page, the deep, narrow crevices where ambient light cannot bounce or penetrate, such as the exact point where two fingers fall together, or the deep crease inside a jacket sleeve. Filling these micro crevices with solid black ink gives your line work an incredible structural density and crisp visual clarity. Now let's get into step 19, the psychology of panel transition, that is, understanding closure. Comic theorist Scott McCloud famously noted that the true magic of comics happens between the panels in the empty white space of the cover. The psychological phenomenon is known as closure. The reader's brain looks at two static pictures and automatically constructs a continuous sequence of action, time, and meaning. As a mangaka, you must master the different types of panel transition to control the native pacing of your book. Let's get into the six core transition types. Depending on how you jump from one panel to the next, you alter how fast the reader moves through your world. 1. Moment to moment. This transition covers a fraction of a second. Panel 1 shows a character's eye wide open. Panel 2 shows the eye blinking closed. It slows down time to an absolute crawl, creating intense suspense, intimate quietness, or micro focus on his physical action. 2. Action to action. The most common transition in comic storytelling. Panel 1 shows a character winding up a fist. Panel 2 shows the fist connecting with a punch. It keeps the story moving forward efficiently by focusing strictly on major cause and effect moments. Next, subject to subject. This transition stays within the same scene or idea but switches the camera focus entirely. And panel 1 shows a ringing alarm clock. Panel 2 shows a student groaning under the bed sheets. It requires more mental closures from the readers to connect the two ideas, building a rich sense of environment and situational awareness. Next, scene to scene. A massive jump across space and time. Panel 1 shows a character sitting in a college classroom during the daytime. Panel 2 shows them walking down a dark city street at midnight. These transitions use large establishing shots to orient the reader safely after a major narrative leap. Next, aspect to aspect. The transition freezes time entirely, treating the panels like a wandering camera lens, exploring a single moment from multiple angles. Panel 1 shows a frozen snowy landscape. Panel 2 shows a frosted pine branch. Panel 3 shows a footprint in the deep snow. It is a highly poetic atmospheric transitions that establishes a profound sense of mood, place, and season. A technique deeply embedded in classic slice of life and dramatic manga. And next one is non sequitur. The panels have zero logical or narrative connection to one another. While incredibly rare, it can be used for avant-garde, highly surreal or abstract psychological storytelling where you want to intentionally confuse or destabilize the reader's thought process. So let's talk about a further step in my next video. Thank you so much for watching if you have reached this far. And if you are loving this content, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give a like. I would really appreciate. Let's get into the manga process in my next video. Till then, see you and take care. Bye.